meant to help people. Peoria Citizens Committee for Economic Opportunity has been supporting them through low income with energy assistance, food, childcare for more than 50 years. But last year, after 5 employees were fired for accused theft of more than $500,000 and going through multiple CEOs, the community is concerned about the management. They say they fear for the nonprofit's future.
Our own Liz Lape had a chance to sit down with former PCCEO employees and the former board chair in a search for answers. Liz?
That's right, Tyler and Janice. This story took some big turns from the beginning to today, including the former PCCEO board chair, who after further investigation resigned just days ago. On top of this, we talked to former PCCEO employees who accuse organization leaders of money mismanagement at the state and federal level. Some also say those employees who were fired were wrongly accused by the organization. As programs get cut from PCCEO, people are concerned current leadership doesn't have the qualifications to keep the place or its programs afloat. And community petitions calling for change in leadership have been created.
It's not run as a business or as a nonprofit. It's run as a favor factory for friends of the board of directors, and depending on who the CEO is.
PCCEO has been through 5 CEOs and interim CEOs since McFarland Bragg left the position in 2022 after 29 years.
You cannot lose over 100 years of experience, knowledge, information, etc. in a 6-month time period. Those individuals are replaced with folks who have no idea, no knowledge of anything of what the organization did or does.
There's a huge gulf there between what the company is and what it could be. And any time competent people were brought in, it didn't last long because they either wouldn't compromise their morals or they would quit.
One of those former employees worked as a clerk in the accounting department for 4 years until he quit in 2024. He says the board would often mismanage funding for programs, saying members would constantly overrule the advice of the accounting team.
So no one on the board really cares about whether the money they're spending is compliant with the grants we receive. You're saying, hey, we can't spend money on this. It's not compliant with our grant. And then the board tells accounting to cut the check anyway.
It's problems like these that he says is one of the reasons the entire accounting team quit by January 2024.
To work there, it's not are you competent or are you the best for the job. It's are you going to do what the board tells you to do and not ask a lot of questions?
He also worries if mismanagement continues, more programs like Head Start and LIHEAP will be cut. He says the weatherization program was cut after the program team quit because of tensions between contractors who worked on the homes. Then management failed to hire another team. This program has now been taken over by another agency. The foster grandparent program was also eliminated, as well as transportation services.
I think the best thing that could happen is that the board is gone and the state, the Department of Government, or the Department of Commerce and Economic Opportunity takes over.
The public has also voiced concerns over an incident where 5 employees were fired on March 27th for alleged theft. PCCEO didn't file a police report until April 4th. The report shows employees stole more than $660,000 from the nonprofit through gift cards meant for clients since July 2020. The report also describes how the gift cards are requested by employees for clients, approved by the accounting department, and by then CFO Asia Washam. Police say the fired employees were submitting these gift cards for their own personal use. They still have not been arrested or charged in the ongoing investigation. But former employees say the fired employees were dismissed without knowing exactly why, except that they were accused of fraudulent activities and only received this letter of dismissal. They also claim the fired employees did not have the direct ability to handle money, and they are being accused of theft they did not commit. Former employees say the current CEO, Cassandra Powell, who held the board chair position at the time of the alleged theft, would ask employees for personal favors, such as purchasing items for her like clothing. When those employees didn't want to do this anymore, they say Powell viewed them as enemies. The former employees say Powell used to say she was head in charge and that she could get rid of anyone she wanted to. Sources close to this story believe the alleged theft was an isolated incident and occurred during a transition of leadership, presenting an opportunity to take from the organization. They say internal processes at the organization have been changed because of the incident. In recent developments, the Peoria Area Food Bank is separating from PCCEO because their partner, Eastern Illinois Food Bank, did not feel comfortable with the turnover of leadership at the nonprofit. The food bank will still continue to serve the community, but will be running independently from PCCEO. PCCEO's Chief Operating Officer Wayne Cannon says he is stepping down to focus solely on the food bank. And from the city, Peoria Mayor Rita Ali tells us she is aware that there are efforts currently underway to save the organization, its services, and funding.
Former board chair Andreas Diaz says he stepped down from the position to focus on his other job January 28th. And he says the vice chair Cindy Womack will be taking over. We reached out to Womack and current interim CEO Cassandra Powell for comment, but they did not respond back.